Alright, it's about that time. I'm looking today at the top 10 horror movies you probably haven't seen yet. Now, there's a certain criteria to this list. Now, first, I'm very aware that you, a viewer, might have seen one or more of these movies. Specifically for this list, I included movies I've watched since my last video, which was well over a year ago. I also wanted to include movies that the average mainstream horror fan would not know of. So to be on this list, a movie needs to not overly be talked about, and also has to have a box office draw of under 50 million, including inflation. Most of these movies, as you'll see, are well under that amount. Starting off at number 10, we have The Rental. Now, alright, we're starting off the list with one of the most unique movies I have ever seen. The movie is actually pretty misleading at first. The first hour has almost no horror elements and basically boils down to what seems to be a romantic comedy between the two couples. Now, in pretty much all of these entries, I'm going to try to avoid giving any spoilers. So, after the tensions rise between the couples, something unexpected and sinister seems to occur in the midst of all the drama. Frankly, the movie is not only good, but it's also pretty scary. What separates this movie from any other horror film you might have seen, or even on this list, is the believable characters and the sinister twist that happens when you least expect. The movie is great at being different from the rest of the genre, with making you feel comfortable for majority of the movie until fan. This movie came out in summer of 2020 and has a box office revenue of about 3.4 million, which adjusted for inflation is about 3.8 million. If you want to watch a romantic comedy turn dark in the last 25 minutes, I suppose this movie's for you? Alright, let me reword it. If you want to watch an unorthodox and creative movie, well, in that case, The Rental is definitely for you. Alright, coming in at number 9, we have a pretty strange choice for this one. It's Creep. Now, alright, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I personally do not enjoy found footage movies really at all. However, Creep is one of the few exceptions. This movie is different from any other found footage. It's more of a psychological thriller that has cheesy jump scares, and it's pretty laughable at times. However, there's something charming about this movie. Perhaps it's low budget, perhaps it's the acting thing, but it caused it to land on my list. The fact that I don't like found footage and I was able to enjoy this movie is really interesting. Without giving away the plot or spoiling any of the movie, if I had one word to describe this movie, it would probably be bizarre. But the commitment is there, and it was a quick watch, so I definitely recommend watching this. Creep came out in 2014 and was distributed by Netflix. If you want a lighthearted, fun found footage movie with passionate acting, I think this one's for you. Alright, at number 8, we probably have the most polarizing movie on the entire list. We're looking at Z. Alright, I've attempted to give thorough explanations without spoiling plots in these entries. However, before I continue with Z, I just want to let you know that if you like The Babadook, you will love this movie. Z is a slow burner movie, but if you have the patience, you're rewarded with a psychological horror masterpiece. The plot follows a family, and more specifically, a little boy who has an imaginary friend. Obviously, just by the sound of it, you can tell that the imaginary friend is up to no good. I think that this movie is actually overlooked, because admittedly, while it does drag a bit, I believe that the story they are telling does more than enough to make me want to put this on the list. As I mentioned before, this movie seems to be very polarizing among horror fans, so I really do encourage you to go watch it to let me know your opinion. Now, Z, which came out in 2019, was able to rake in a little over $788,000, which is approximately $900,000 in today's money. If you want a slow-burning psychological masterpiece, I think this movie's for you. Coming in at number 7, we have Gerald's Game. Now, maybe this list should be called most unique horror movies, because Gerald's Game actually is one of the most psychological, mind-bending horror films I've ever seen. Based on a Stephen King novel, this movie has twists and turns like no other. Alright, now maybe it's recency bias because this is the latest movie I watched, but Gerald's Game actually is an innovative movie that kept me confused and guessing until the very end. This might not be the movie for everyone, but to those who enjoy this subgenre, know that this is your perfect cup of tea. The plot pretty much displays what happens emotionally and mentally to a girl when she is handcuffed to a bed in the middle of the woods with no escape. Once again, without giving away too many spoilers, this movie is a true mental and physical test of our protagonist, as she can't even seem to wrap her head around what is fiction and what's reality. This psychological thriller is one of those movies you might need to watch more than once to appreciate. This movie came out in 2017, and there's not really a number I can put on it because it was distributed by Netflix. I have not seen or heard of any people who have seen this movie, so I decided to include it. If you're looking for a movie that dives into the mentality of a person who has lost all sanity and hope, Gerald's Game might just be the one for you. Alright, coming in at number 6, we have Last Shift. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the scariness of a movie does not correlate with its quality. However, there are some instances where a movie is both good and scary. This film is genuinely one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, and it revolves around a rookie cop doing an overnight shift at a transitioning police station. She's alone, which is horrifying, and is rapidly tortured by spirits or possibly herself. The ambiguity in this movie is awesome. The viewer truly does not know what is reality versus mental insanity. Is this movie a supernatural movie, or it is a movie based on the rookie cop's deteriorating mental state as a result of a recent grief? If you've not seen this movie and you would like a good scare, I would more than recommend this movie. The sound design used for specific scares is what really separates this movie from others, especially considering the time period. Shift came out in 2014 and had a revenue of a little over $1 million, which would be a little over $1.25 million in 2022. If you'd like a quick scare to make you never want to be alone again, this is the movie for you. Speaking of scary movies, coming in at number 5 is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Now, this is actually one of the scariest movies I've seen in the last 12 months. Now, the title already tells you that this movie is going to be terrifying, as anything to do with dead bodies or autopsies normally is a recipe for a bad horror movie. The movie starts surprisingly calm as a father and son are doing an autopsy on an unidentified woman. However, the movie quickly spirals out of control as things become stranger and freakier than either man would ever expect. The movie also has a few excellent jump scares. One thing I wanted to mention about this movie is I've seen many horror movies pair a song with the movie or the antagonist of the movie, and The Autopsy of Jane Doe does that perfectly. This movie is almost the opposite of a slow burn because there's a creepy action lurking almost every step of the way. The Autopsy of Jane Doe came out in 2016 and was able to make $6 million, which equates to about $7.3 million today. If you like paranormal frights, this is a must watch, especially with that creepy song. Coming in at number 4, we have His House. Now, where do I even begin? This is one of the most excellent movies I've seen in a long time. The movie is so great in so many different ways and perspectives, and it connects all the dots at the end to make a modern masterpiece. The plot follows a couple who are fleeing South Sudan because of a war, and they go to England. The refugees find that their new house seems to hold a malevolent entity who is seeking revenge for something. I don't even know how to articulate the brilliance of this movie in such a short period of time. If you find yourself watching this movie, I would recommend doing some research after to clarify some holes that you might find in the movie. The movie is a heavy experience and the horror is no holds barred. However, the movie combines different aspects of the culture and horror to make the movie that cannot be scrolled past on. The movie came out in 2020 and is a Netflix movie, so there's no box office numbers I can put out. If you like a mysterious movie with scares and mental horror, then His House is. Coming in at number 3, we have Goodnight Mommy, which is a German film and exceeds expectations, but also in a format that I've never seen in a film before or to date. Now, I hate saying that a movie has a twist or a crazy ending because that almost feels like a spoiler in and of itself. So, that's where I'm going to leave it. The movie ends in a distinctive way that leaves more questions than answers. Goodnight Mommy follows twin boys who seem to grow suspicious of their mother after she has a reconstructive surgery, although it does seem that the boys actually have some merits to their beliefs, because the mother seems to be acting a lot more standoffish than before. The question remains, how will these young twin boys overcome this obstacle to find their mother? The movie really does not have any traditional horror elements, but the abnormal feeling is still able to efficiently leave a viewer wondering what could lurk around the corner. Goodnight Mommy is another 2014 movie which was able to bring in $2.2 million US, which is about $2.7 million after taking inflation into account. If you would like to watch a mysterious movie which will leave you stunned by the end, then I would point you no further than Goodnight Mommy. Coming in at number 2, we have House of the Devil. Now, set in the 1980s, this movie is interesting yet so simplistic. The first 2 acts of the movie are nothing past unsettling. The actual horror comes out of nowhere late in the movie, but when it happens swiftly. House of the Devil was actually a very enjoyable plot to follow. The movie follows a college girl who is desperately trying to scrape up any money she can for rent. The girl is actually able to find a babysitting job, but her best friend thinks it might be suspicious. One thing that I can say makes this movie so special is one of the most unexpected scenes in all of horror. Seriously, it's up there with Charlie's Head, or lack thereof, in Hereditary. This movie has great characters and the main protagonist is a charismatic girl who you just want to see succeed. I love the eeriness of this movie. Everything from the start just has a strange feeling to it, leaving the viewer always on edge. House of the Devil came out in 2009 and only accumulated a box office of a little over $100,000, which is about $125,000 adjusted for inflation. If you want an eerie cult movie with an unexpected twists and turns, then I would highly recommend House of the Devil. Taking our crown at the number 1 spot is going to be The Dark and the Wicked. Now, alright, the top spot on this list goes to this movie. Why? Well, first of all, this is by far the best slow burn horror movie I've seen all year. The plot follows 2 siblings who have returned home to their parents when their father is seemingly at his worst. To summarize it, without spoilers, this movie is just full of mystery and ambiguity, yet is cloaked with an unsettling feel of stress and grief. The feeling I got watching this movie truly cannot be replicated and is truly devastating to watch the family slowly fall apart, especially after being warned by the matriarch of their impending doom. The clues sprinkled throughout the movie help bring it to the next level by emphasizing utilizing the symbolism of almost anything that can be identified. The movie has one of the more curious and open-ended finales I've seen. Not to mention, the movie is also very scary and will leave you not feeling comfortable after watching this. This slow burn movie has almost no sense of calmness or peace. It seems that these characters are just digging their own graves the longer they stay in the demonic house. The movie came out in 2020 and made $422,000, which is about $476,000 in today's economy. If you like a slow burn, unsettling demonic movie that will scare you into insomnia, then The Dark and Wicked might just be perfect for you. That's my list. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you were to subscribe, maybe leave me a comment, tell me what you think. I know it's been over a year, but with your support, I'd love to keep uploading again. I really enjoy making these videos. Sometimes they're just really exhausting and time consuming. With the little free time I have left, I'm going to try to put as much as I can into this channel. I really appreciate you guys for making it all the way to the end of the video, and don't forget to stay cool, fellas.